It's so important to say to parents, like, it's hard for me to navigate it, and I'm a child nutritionist. I specialise in this field and I've been talking about it for my entire career. Unfortunately, there is no specific terminology for what a fussy eater is. If you look at research papers, there is no one definition, but it does seem very common. I think there's some research that suggests that like 50% of families go through fussy eating at some point. Said about that label of fussy eating, I think that is really unhelpful because first of all, in your mind, you're going, right, well, there's a wall up there and we know they're not going to eat very well. And second of all, if they hear that or if they clock onto that, you know, kids pick up on those messages. If we constantly say to them, you're a fussy eater, that's what they're going to believe.
I'm Charlie Barker, and today we have the lovely Charlotte Stirling-Reed here in the studio. She is, in my opinion, the guru to all things weaning and child nutrition, so I am here to pick her brains. She shares such useful information online about everything to do with feeding your children, but today we're going to talk mainly about fussy eaters because Lord knows I have been around the houses with this one, and I know loads of you have too. This episode is full of tips, so whether you are about to do a nap walk or go on the school run, I hope that you find it useful because I certainly did. So let's dive right in. Charlotte, thank you so much for coming in. I am so excited because we have been going left, right and centre trying to catch each other, but with kids, it's pretty impossible.
It is, definitely. Well, thank you for having me on. I'm really excited to be here.
That's okay. And we're going to have a full conversation.
Yeah, love it.
No
Love
one
a
interrupting
podcast
us.
chat.
Yay.
Yeah.
So first of all, before we get into it, can you deliver me your mum's stats? So how many kids, how old are they, and one word to describe them?
So, 2 kids, and I'm not sure I can do anymore, 5 and 8, and I would say carnage.
For which one?
For Ada, my 5.
Okay.
And my 8-year-old, sensitive. That's
Sweet.
what I would
It's like
say.
chalk and cheese, it sounds like.
Chalk and cheese, they are chalk and cheese.
And do they get on very well?
Do you know what? We have been finding recently that, I mean, I've talked on social media so much about the rows. Like, they have rowed and rowed and rowed. And I grew up rowing with my brother, hugely. But I love it because actually recently, like even half time, obviously don't get me wrong, they bicker and they fight a lot. But there's been so many more moments where I'm like, oh, they're playing. And last night, I promise you, for about 2 hours after school, they played together. Oh. And that just has never really happened.
You just don't want to disturb them, do you? When you see that, you want to
I think they went to bed at like 9 o'clock because we were like, don't disturb
Oh, that's so nice.
Do not stop
But they always
playing.
play nicely at bedtime, don't you find?
Exactly.
You're like,
they
why
know.
can't you have played like this all day
All
up
day.
until now?
It's
But
so
I actually
true.
also find that in the school holidays, they play so much better together.
Yeah, I mean, I think our trouble is the 2 pain points. 1, leaving the house. Absolutely drives me mad every time. And number 2 is in the car. They are so bad in the car. There's
We are
something about it that
actually
winds them up.
getting a new car this week.
Yeah, with dividers.
Yeah, no, basically, the chairs are separate. And the
my
guy
God.
selling me the car couldn't understand. I said, do you have children? He said, no. And I was like, right, listen to me. I don't
Yeah.
want my kids to touch each other.
they can
in
be
the
nowhere
back.
near.
Yeah, and he's like, okay, thinking I'm a crazy boo. And I'm like, the main prerequisite of this car is our kids to be separate.
Or honestly, sometimes I genuinely dream about putting a big barrier up, you know, like in the taxis. I'm like, if we could put that up and they couldn't actually touch each other, because they do genuinely end up physically fighting in the car. And it's so distracting when you're driving. And
So
then I'm
dangerous,
like,
isn't it?
I've just seen Rafi like whack Ada around the head. And I'm thinking, I now need to pull over because I am losing my rag in the front because there's so much screaming. I can't concentrate. I can't hear. I can't see anything. They are terrible in the car.
I hear myself shouting, everybody sit on your hands.
Yeah.
Sit on your hands. And they're like, oh my God, my mum's lost the plot. But I'm with you. I'm
like,
with
stop
you.
fighting, stop fighting, stop fighting. And they also don't listen to me. It's like my voice just seems to disappear out the window. So I'll be like, guys, can you listen to me? Guys, listen.
But
guys.
do you find that you have your shouting voice and then if you go one level more, they're like, oh my
Yes,
God, oh my God.
absolutely.
And then you see their
Mum means
scared
it.
faces and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm
Scarred.
like, I've really lost it now. And I remember my mum doing that too and you're like, oops, we've pushed it too far.
Yeah.
So that's very nice to hear. And I think it's so good that you share about that because people, you know, you're like me, you never film your kids fighting and put that online. But I think it's very important to be honest about it. And, you know, we post all the sweet pictures of them holding hands and looking cute, but that is like a small minority in the day.
Exactly.
So I think it's important to make sure that we're sharing like the honest stuff, but also not making out that like we hate our kids and it's awful. So it's really hard to find a balance.
It's really hard. And I think the balance has to be like the honesty, because I so many followers often say to me like, oh, thank you for sharing this and thank you for being honest. But I just don't really see why I would do it any other way. I just feel like because parenthood is so hard, why wouldn't you just be like, hands up, it's really hard, we're dealing with it, but, you know, it's not horrendous. It's not the end of the world. I don't regret any of it. I
think
I
some
love
parents
moments of
feel like they're doing it wrong and they don't want to admit that their kids fight or they're a bit embarrassed.
Yeah.
So I think that the more we talk about it, the more other people will.
Yeah.
And on that note, do you have like a mum's WhatsApp group that is your go-to when you're having a hard day, or is that your Instagram stories?
No, I've got a few. I have got a few mums WhatsApps. I've got like a book one. I've got an NCT one.
Amazing.
I've got a few different ones. But I have to say, during lockdown, Instagram. Well, during lockdown when I had Ada, she was born then, and when I had that, Instagram was a saviour for me. Just sharing what happened with Ada and the trauma that I kind of went through with her was I don't know how I would have got through it all without Instagram and people going, me too, you know, this happened to me. It was amazing.
And you're like, I'm not alone. I'm not alone. So before we dive into that, what is the last thing that you messaged one of your mum WhatsApp groups?
Okay, so I think one of the things that we did, because we just had half term, and I think there was a lot of carnage talk about how chaotic the half term is for a working mum. So, you know, the fact that we're trying to juggle, like, be there for the kids on the days that they're off. And I think I would have, I don't know exactly the words, but it would have been something along the lines of, oh my gosh, being a working mum trying to juggle this is really tricky. How
Most of the WhatsApps in half term were, sorry, I haven't replied. Sorry, I haven't got back to you because I can't.
Yeah, and the kids are fighting.
Exactly.
Anyone got any tips?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, one of my ones, I was trying to find a food-related one because I knew I was having you on. And it was on Halloween where it was like, oh my God, I'm so annoyed my kids can now count because now I can't take their Halloween chocolate while they're in bed. Because they came back and they had so many sweets from trick-or-treating. And they sat there and counted every single one out. And we were going, oh no.
Yeah.
Now we can't take them.
We can't eat them ourselves.
And it was like, can we eat them all? It's like, no, it's 7 p.m. now and you've got to go to bed.
Yeah, that was exactly it. I found that as
so
well.
Hard.
I obviously try not to do the overtly restricting, and it's so much easier said than done.
Yep.
Because especially you get them home after trick-or-treating and they're like, well, we're gonna eat these now, right? And it's like, it's 7:30. Like,
exactly.
no.
It's bedtime.
But it's really tricky to navigate. And I've been talking about this a lot recently, and I think it's so important to say to parents, like, it's hard for me to navigate it, and I'm a child nutritionist. I specialise in this field, and I've been talking about it for my entire career. So when I get home with the kids at 7:30, I'm going, oh God, what are we going to do? So
now that takes the pressure off
blame
the rest
yourselves.
of us.
Exactly. Do not blame yourselves for not knowing, because there's no clear-cut answer,
So
you know.
true. And before we keep going, I reckon we need to just have a quick whistle-stop tour of how you got to where you are today, because if somebody has been living under a rock and might not know who you are, I mean, you're on speed dial in my phone for anything kids food related, but how did you get to where you are today, just quickly?
Oh, sure. I love that. I love that you asked me that, because it is quite rare. We always talk about our topic, don't we? But we don't really talk about like our
how did you get here?
How we got here. So I went to university and I really couldn't decide what to do. But my dad was a science teacher and my mum loved food. She was a history teacher, but she just loved food. She was so passionate about nutrition. She was always making us like carrot and ginger juice in the morning, and you know, all the kind of trends that were back in her day. And yeah, she just loved food. They both loved cooking and baking. And so it was almost like I wanted to do something scientific. And I went to university and did human biology and nutrition. And it felt like nutrition was a really new kind of upcoming thing. And yeah, so I did an undergraduate and a postgraduate. I then specialised in public health nutrition. And then I was so lucky to get a job in the NHS at a time when there was much more readily available jobs. But I got a really niche job learning about child nutrition. And it hadn't been something that crossed my mind.
Wow.
I'd never done anything about it at university. And I was like, yeah, I'll give child nutrition a go.
How fun is that?
Oh my God, I loved it.
The rest is
That was
history.
it. The rest is literally history.
Oh my gosh, because we met going on Hazel Wallace's podcast. Do you remember?
Oh, did we?
Way
Yeah.
back in the day when I was talking about pregnancy exercise and you were talking about pregnancy nutrition or something like that. And I remember you were just kind of starting out.
Yeah.
And so was I think. So, oh
as
my
a
gosh.
freelancer.
And now you're on every parent's bookshelf.
Oh, bless
or you
you.
should be. Any parent that I know, you're on the bookshelf anyway.
Oh, that makes me
So
happy.
I wanted to mainly talk to you today about fussy eating, because my inbox is filled with fussy
Yeah.
eating questions because I've been really honest in the fact that my first was very fussy, which was hard because I didn't know any different. And I just thought, I remember thinking, why do people say weaning is fun? I'm not having a fun time. I don't get it. And I was messaging you loads about various things, and you didn't have a fussy eater at this point.
Yeah.
Because Ada and Alfie were born around the same time.
Okay.
So your eldest was
Yeah.
already a great eater.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying to me one time, just try and give him some baked beans. And I was like, he won't even eat the baked beans. And I was like, if that's your like last resort, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So what is defined as a fussy eater and what's just like a normal child? Because I think we're very quick to label it, aren't we?
Yeah, I think that's really difficult as well because unfortunately there is no specific terminology for what a fussy eater is. If you look at research papers, there is no one definition.
Yeah.
It varies from parent to parent. And also what is fussy for one child will be completely different for another family. So, you know, one person might think that their kid's fussy if they're refusing their kind of, you know, cheese sandwiches. Another family might feel like their child's fussy if they're refusing their, you know, a la carte three-course meal that they do every single day. So it's really, really variable. But it does seem very common. I think there's some research that suggests that like 50% of families go through fussy eating at some point. I think that there's a lot about personality of kids involved, and I often think we don't take that into account. Like, for example, with Ada, you know, she was not a very good sleeper. And I actually think that just a massive part of that was her personality. And I think there is something to say about fussy eating and it being part of a bit of a personality.
Yeah.
There's genetic influence, there's outside kind of environmental influence, there's parenting influence. And also, you know, we raise children differently depending on their siblings and their experiences. So there's so many different things that can kind of, let's say, inverted commas, cause fussy eating. So it's almost impossible to kind of find what that is. But I think that there is always something you can do, even if there's a genetic element, even if we think that they're fussy and that's, you know, they're kind of pre-programmed to be fussy. There's definitely still lots of stuff that we can do.
I also think sometimes if we're so quick to label them as a fussy eater, we almost
100%.
give up.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, I've got a fussy eater.
Yeah.
And I was definitely guilty of that because I didn't know any different. And I was looking online. Everybody always shares online these pictures of their kids covered in food. And I just like, couldn't get Alfie to put a spoon in his mouth. He would pierce his lips like this. Every time I would put a spoon in his mouth, he would just And it was so demoralising. And I just remember thinking I was doing something wrong and just dreading mealtimes. And actually, I think that comes across, doesn't it? Because then I had my second, and like with you, with your second, you don't do anything different that you think you probably are being different. And suddenly they were different eater. And you think, oh my God, so it actually was the child as much as it was me.
Yeah.
So how did you, so Rafi was a great eater from the start?
Yeah, so Rafi was really good right from word go. And it was in some ways it was great because obviously it was my first experience with weaning, and I was able to literally explore almost all of the research that I'd been learning over the years and all the advice. I was really able to be exploratory with him and like put different things down and just see how it made a big impact. And then when Ada came along, she was not such an exploratory eater, and she's still she's getting much better now, but she still isn't quite the way that Raf is. And she also is such a micro eater, like such small portions. Does not take much to fill her up at all. But she was definitely a very different personality with eating to Raf.
Did you find it hard not to compare?
Massively, and especially to begin with, I was a bit like, what's going on? Like, why isn't she eating well? And like you said about that label of fussy eating, I think that is really unhelpful. It's really unhelpful to like label someone as a fussy eater because first of all, in your mind, you're going, right, well, there's a wall up there and we know they're not going to eat very well. And second of all, if they hear that or if they clock onto that, you know, kids pick up on those messages. If we constantly say to them, you're a fussy eater, that's what they're going to believe. So next time you put the food down in front of them and you're like, right, well, now I know you didn't eat this last time. They're going to be thinking, oh yeah, I didn't eat it last time. I didn't like it last time. I'm not going to have it. You know, it puts that straight in their mind. So I think that Raf, sorry, I've probably gone off on a tangent.
No, we love a tangent.
But yeah, Ada was definitely a very different personality when it came to eating. I tried really hard not to compare them. But what I did find was once she was like refusing foods, I just had to slowly step back and go, okay, this is not a problem.
Yeah.
This is not problematic. She's eating smaller portions. She did not eat breakfast till she was over 1. She did not want breakfast.
I remember you said that. And actually my second was the same.
Yeah.
He didn't want to really eat until about 10 a.m.
Yeah. Exactly. The Ada was exactly the same. It was about 10:30, and we often used to be out at different groups or whatever, and I would give her then the equivalent of her breakfast at that time.
And actually,
because
as
she wasn't
adults, some of
interested.
us are like that too. I like to wake up and eat straight away.
Yeah, see, I don't. I quite like to wake up, have a little bit of time, and then have like breakfast a little bit later.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I find I get really hungry really quickly if I eat first thing.
Interesting.
So
Maybe that's my
more.
problem. Maybe I should wait a bit. But I find I'm more like, I've got so much to do. Quick, I've got to eat because then I won't
Get
have
it done.
time.
Yeah, exactly.
And kids are very similar. Like my three are very different. My eldest is an early riser, and I think he wakes up ready to eat straight away. The middle one he's a chiller. He wants to lie in bed for a bit.
Chiller.
He likes
You
a
love
brunch,
that.
I'd say. But when you get to school age, we'll come on to that later, you can't. You have to eat before you go to school. So
It's
when
so tricky,
we stick on the first stage, when they were eating together at the table, how did you navigate, like, well, your brother's eating it, you've got to eat it? It's like really hard not to pin them against each other, isn't it? Or did you just let them do what they needed to do and leave it at that?
So I think it's trickier for families who have it the other way around, who have a non-eater and then are trying to introduce food.
Which is what we had.
Yeah, it's definitely harder that way around.
Because they copy.
Exactly. And they copy you, they copy their siblings. The first thing I would say is with Ada, when she wasn't eating those foods, again, I had to step back and go, this is all right. And I just let her not eat her food. In the morning, I'd serve Rafi's food. He loves breakfast. So again, the opposite, absolute breakfast fiend. He will get it all in there. He loves eggs and omelettes for breakfast. He loves porridge, like loads, so much stuff into his porridge.
Heaven.
He's so good with it. But Ada did not like porridge. She did not like avocado. She did not like egg. She didn't eat any of those things. So all I would do is I would give her a bowl of something. It might be a mix of things. So maybe it's a bit of yogurt, maybe it's some berries, maybe it's some pancake. Whatever Rafi was having, she would be having bits of that as well. Right. I would always be like, that's fine, you don't have to eat it. She was very much one for in and out of the high chair. Once she was able to, she was up and down from the high chair. And it would be really hard for me because I'm a bit of a like, no, we're all sitting around.
And you just let that happen?
I would let it happen, but I would say you're not eating away from the table. So, yes, you can get down if you want to get down, but we're not eating away from the table. And I would keep the attention at the table, so I'd stay there. And I would never force her to eat it. And now she loves eggs. She likes avocado, although my kids are always up and down with avocado. And she does eat porridge. Again, not huge amounts by any means. Sometimes, even this morning, for example, a few spoonfuls.
But she's come back to it. That's
But
so
she likes it.
interesting.
She likes it. She enjoys it. Sometimes she eats big bowls. Sometimes she picks at it and only eats a little bit.
So that would be such a reassurance to people listening who are in that early phase, because I was like, he's just going to eat bread for the rest of his life. He's going to be so malnourished. This is awful. And you go to friends' houses who have kids like, oh, surely Alfie will eat spaghetti bolognese. I'm like, no, can he just have plain spaghetti? He won't eat it. You start to feel so embarrassed about it. But that's amazing that they are coming around. And even Alfie, he's in year 1 now. Yeah. And he eats all of his school lunches. And he comes back and he's like, guess what, we had this today. And there's sometimes he's like, I didn't like that. And I'm like, that's fine. And he's learning from school. And obviously we encourage it too. I just want you to try. I just want you to try. If you don't like it, that's fine, but just try. But the problem we had is the boys are 20 months apart. So when Barney was born, or when he started weaning, Alfie wasn't much older than him, but he was pushing his bowl away, pushing his plate away. Ugh. And Barney was a great eater for the first few months. And then you could see him going,
picking up.
Oh, that's what we do. Ugh, I'm not eating that. And then it was more like, we aren't eating this. It was like they were a force against us. Yeah. Exactly. And
that's really hard.
And he's just as fussy now as a toddler. But interestingly, they go in phases. So it's like, I don't want any sauces on anything. And then the next week, it's like, I love that sauce.
Oh, my God.
And you're like, I'm going to make loads of it. And then they're like, actually, no. You're like, I've just bought 10 packets of whatever I said you liked. And I remember, especially with vegetables, they suddenly ate loads of green beans. And I was like, oh, my God, they love green beans. And then my mistake is for the next, 4 meals, I'll serve green beans. And they're like, I don't like them anymore.
Fed up of it. This is the thing. So what I would say is, first of all, when you have that reaction, so when he's like, no, I don't want this, or pushing the bowl away, the key, and it's so hard because it goes against our human nature, is to not draw any attention to it.
That is hard.
The more we do, the worse, because you will be drawing attention to that behaviour happening. And the second thing is focus on your own self-eating. Okay. And I know, you've probably heard me say this so many times, but the you as an adult eating the food is going to have a really big impact.
Just eating it with them,
eating it with them, sitting with them, eating the food with them, letting them see you eating it. Because if your son is pushing it away and your reaction is, that's okay, you don't have to eat it. And then you're having a conversation with them over the table and they literally see you eating it, their attention is not going to be drawn to the food refusal.
Yeah.
It's going to be drawn to the actual, like, eating the food. And the other thing I wanted to say is what you said, oh my God, the up and down, and this is so common. It's so common. Like, my kids have been off with, especially things like bananas and avocado.
And you're like, I've got 27 bananas in the fruit bowl now, and now you don't like them, but you did last week. My mum's WhatsApp group is quite often like, does any of your kids like these oat bars? Because yesterday she loved them and now she won't eat them, so does anyone want them? Yeah. And it's often like that because they change their mind. And also as adults we do too, but it's just, I tend to jump on it, especially if it's a healthy food. Yeah. Oh my God, they love this sweet potato, whatever.
And then they'll pick up on that.
Exactly. So I just need to chill out, I think. But I think it's so common, isn't it?
It's the one thing I always say to parents, the more you can go into all of this that we're talking about with nonchalance, and it is hard because it's literally against our innate desire is we want to feed our children. Yeah. We know that it's good for them. We know they need the energy. We know they need to grow. So we're like, we need to get you to eat.
I know.
But actually, the more you can step back and do and just act nonchalant, like, that's okay, you don't have to eat it. And
do you
obviously
know what
inside
we call
we're
it?
Bubbling.
We've done it before and we've called it private dining experience, where sometimes us at the table is stressing them out.
Yeah, okay.
So we'll put the food in front of them and maybe they've got a book at the table or something, or they're just like in their own little world, and we back away. And sometimes we're literally at the other end of the room, or we've left the room, but I can still peek in and out. They start eating.
Yeah.
And we call it private dining experience because they think they're on their own, but we are in the background, but they are eating it. And then, like you said before, I'm like, oh, fantastic, you ate it. But inside, I'm like, exactly. And I feel like really jumping for joy, but I think sometimes I'm the problem, not them.
Well, that's the thing. I think like parents often blame themselves, and to caveat, it is so important to say it is absolutely not anybody's fault. There are multiple reasons why children become fussy or start refusing foods. And like I said, part of that is genetic, part of it is personality. There's so many reasons for it, but a lot of it can be down to the way we respond. Yeah. And our response, like I said, is driven by an innate need to feed our children. And actually sometimes that isn't helpful, because what we do need to do is step back, is take the pressure down, is turn down the volume on the food noise that is going through your head, and just go, I'm just going to model what I want you to do, and I'm not going to tell you what I want you to do with this food. I'm just going to be here as the model. You can watch me, you can observe me, and you know what, like you said, sometimes that takes months and years.
Oh yeah, I mean, it made my family group chat when Alfie ate a piece of broccoli. It was like, guess what, everyone? Because I basically would stop cooking broccoli for him, because I'm like, it's complete waste. But every dinner that I had broccoli, I'll just save one piece for the next day, and he would have it on his plate, and I put broccoli on his plate probably every 2 days for a year and a half. And then one day he just picked it up and ate it, and I was like, don't move. Oh my God. Texting my husband, texting my mum. Guess what? Going away, taking a picture of him from behind. And he just, from then on, liked broccoli. I don't know what happened, what changed. But it was like Christmas Day for me. I could not believe it. And it's my third, Darcy, she is a good eater.
Really love it.
And I know I've been speaking to you about it. I deserve that. Thank you. I honestly, it gives me so much joy. And I feel like it's healed me a bit, because I went into it being like, oh God, she's nearly time for weaning. I can't. I'm just not ready for this again. Yeah. I had real trauma from it. And I've spoken to mums about, or parents about it, PTSD from weaning.
Yeah, from weaning,
where you start to dread it, they can pick up on that. Yeah. And I was like, even when I got pregnant, it was like, oh no, we're going to have to wean again. It's awful. She's cured me of it, because she does just try stuff. Yeah. And I sort of, if she starts teething or she gets ill and she goes off her food, I find myself getting stressed. It's like, oh no, is this the start of her fussy phase? And then she cuts back her appetite and she's better. And it's just like
your expectations are that something's going to go wrong.
Yeah,
but
when's she going to be
when
fussy?
Something happens, and it sounds like it was quite a traumatic experience for you. So you're sort of like every time waiting for that traumatic experience.
It sounds really dramatic, doesn't it?
When I'm like,
do.
How
traumatic.
God, you feed your child 3 times a day plus.
Tell me
every
about it.
single day. And if that is not going well, meal times are stressful. You cannot avoid them, because your child has to eat. You have to feed them. It is so understandable why that is really hard.
And my husband and I on the weekends would say to each other, what should we do for their dinner? And it's almost like, oh God, who's gonna sort this out?
Who's gonna deal with this one?
It was like rock, paper, scissors, who would do the dinner. And I can really understand when people are like, I'm losing the plot, I'm losing the will to live. It drains the energy out of you. But from my experience, time is the healer.
Yeah.
For them and for us,
absolutely.
because now, with Alfie, my eldest, for example, we involve him a lot in the whole process now. So we say, we're going to make meatballs tonight, whatever.
Love
Let's
that.
go to the supermarket. What do we need? And now he's learning to read and write. I'm like, you need to write this shopping list. We go to the shops. Can you go and get me everything on that list? And obviously I'm with him, but he's being responsible. We get home, he puts his little apron on, he starts chopping stuff, and he's really involved. And then when it gets to the meatballs, he's like proud of himself. Look what we made. And even if he doesn't eat loads of it, it's like he sees what it is, what makes it a meal, that kind of thing. And it's filtering down the family.
Completely. I
His
love
younger
that.
brother's getting into that a bit more. And I was wondering whether it would go two ways. He's like, onions go into meatballs. Like, oh my God,
not
I'm
having
definitely
it.
not eating them now.
Yeah.
But it's seeming to work for him, and he loves to be responsible and be a big boy and those kind of things. So
I love it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Definitely getting them involved in the food really helps. Even if it isn't them eating it,
That's
it's
what I mean.
exposure to food.
Yeah.
It's, one thing that I think a lot of parents don't really realise is that what leads to kids accepting food is familiarity. And what we mean by that is them being familiar with food. It doesn't have to be eating it. They don't have to become familiar with something to like it. So it's about them seeing it, seeing you eat it, picking it up at a supermarket, putting it in the trolley, chopping with it, stirring with it, just seeing it in a fruit bowl on the side, for example. All of that builds familiarity. So what we often do is we say, they don't like broccoli, that I gave them broccoli, they didn't like it, I've taken it away, I'm not going to offer it again. And what we're doing is reducing that familiarity. So when we in 3 months' time go, let's try broccoli again, they're going, like, I'm not familiar with that. I have not seen that for 3 months. Absolutely not. Whereas if we keep it there as a constant, like, they don't like broccoli, but actually my brother's got it on his plate. There's some in front of me here, not on my plate maybe, but on somebody else's plate or in the middle of the table. And also I grabbed it at the supermarket and I was holding it. All of that is building familiarity with the food. And that's probably why the broccoli thing happened for you all of a sudden.
I mean, he was like,
just like, I'm familiar now.
how can I get my mum to stop putting broccoli in my plate? I'm just going to have to eat it. But I also think it's that thing of how many times is it that they need to have tried something?
They say 10 to 15 times
gave me
of
so
trying
much
it.
relief when I found that out, because I was like, well, we're only on number 6.
Yeah.
Like, come on, we've got
Plenty
loads
more
left.
to go.
And that's
I've actually
really
got a tick
nice.
list in my book which has different foods, and then it has the ability for you to add the foods as well. So if, for example, if your little one was off broccoli, you could say, well, let's give that a try 15 more times. Now 15 is a bit of a, there is some research that shows it's 10 to 15, but obviously some children might be loads more than that. Some might be fewer than that. Some might never accept it. So it's obviously not the exact number for everyone, but it's a really good way of building that familiarity.
And takes the pressure off the parents a bit, doesn't it? It's like, we've got all the time in the world.
Exactly.
And as an adult, there's certain things that I still don't like.
Yeah.
And it's a texture thing or whatever. So I think at some stage you have to be like, it's okay, you don't like that. Like my middle doesn't like mashed potato, and I just can't get my head around it. We're having like sausages and mash, and I'm like, are you sure?
You sure
Gravy
you don't want
or
it?
potatoes? I just don't like it. I'm like, okay, fine, but you're missing out,
You're
honestly.
mad,
I will eat it for you. So we have got a couple of questions. I mean, my inbox, I don't know what yours must be like, but my inbox is filled with questions, and it's more
Love it.
parents looking for reassurance. It's like, tell me you had this, and it's always like, oh my God, yeah, and they get so much comfort out of it. So I thought you might go through, where are they, a couple of these questions. So this lady said, my daughter, who is 10 months, just will not try new foods. She turns her nose up just at the look of something new. Help, I'm losing the will. So we've kind of gone through that.
How old? 10 months, did she
10
say?
months.
Yeah.
And losing the will really speaks to my heart. I really feel her pain when she's saying that.
Yeah.
Is there, I mean, I know we're saying 10 to 15 times, but how can you sort of bring joy to the table when they're like immediately like,
Yeah. So first of all, I'm assuming that mum's saying anything new that she cooks. So it's a new
sounds
meal.
like it, yeah.
So the first thing I would do is I would say, when you are dealing with a child who is refusing foods, try not to go all in there with a massive new meal they've never had before. Right. Try and do little bits. So what you want to try and do is provide something familiar and something they will eat alongside something new. So that they see that new food, they're exposed to it, they start to build that familiarity that I talked about. But actually, they don't have to eat it because there's other options.
I see, that's very clever.
So what you're doing is you're giving them the safety of, I can see this food, I can see my mum, my dad, my siblings eating it, but I don't have to eat it because there's other things on the plate that I can eat and that I'm happier with. The second thing is never try and pressure them to eat. And I know that every single parent does this at some point, like have one more spoonful, or
I'm guilty.
please just try that, or you like that yesterday, eat it. You know, it's so common, but we know from loads of research that putting pressure on makes people want to do it less. Say, for example, if you sat down at a table and I put something in front of you, like a green liquid that looked like slime, and I went, try this, and you went, no, I don't want to try it. And I said, no, try it. I want you to try it. You'd probably be thinking to me, bugger off.
Yeah.
And also, no, I don't want to try it even more now that you're pressuring me to try it.
No, you're so right.
Kids being stubborn and individual and trying to find their own independence, they are literally seeking out those little opportunities to go, I'm going to do the opposite to what you tell me. So when we put pressure on, we literally have the exact opposite effect. And they're going, no, the more you push me, the more I don't want to. So you're much better off. It's so hard.
I've been known to do some crazy stuff to get my kids to try. Like I'm like dancing around the table. I'm singing songs. My favourite game, which gets them to eat, is I put it on their plate and I go, that is my bit. Do not. I'm just going to look outside to check if there's a bird in the garden, but that is my piece.
Don't
and they find it so funny.
But that's the thing.
Oh my God! And then they're giggling together, and I come back and it's like, that was my food, and I think, at some point, I'm going to have to stop playing games at the table.
But I would say with that, that is fun. That is engaging them in food. That's like play and activity.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like they're interpreting that as pressure. And I know it's really nuanced and it sounds really flaky, but essentially children will interpret different things as pressure.
Yeah.
And what you need to do is, does that feel pressured? Are you saying, if you eat that, I will give you X, Y, and Z? Because that's pressure.
Which also I have done.
Yes.
I hold my hands up.
So many of us would
I
have
will
done it.
let you go on your scooter after dinner if you eat all your vegetables. And it's also that thing, I know you've said it to me so many times, is trying not to put like pudding or dessert on a pedestal. You can have this. It's very difficult.
It's really difficult. And it's difficult when you are in the habit of doing it, but also when you're in the habit of your child refusing a food. Because your desire is, I don't care about anything else. I want to get them to eat this food.
Especially
in that moment.
If they're like not sleeping very well and you think it's because you're hungry.
Exactly,
and then it's like a vicious cycle and you'll do
100%.
anything.
So many parents will think that, like, they're not eating, and because they're not eating, I need to get them to eat. And the other thing is, like I said, I've said it a few times, but we have this innate desire, I have to get you fed. And we see all this stuff in the news about nutrition and how important nutrition is. So the pressure that we have as parents to go, I have to get you to eat this food.
Yeah.
So of course we resort to tactics. Of course we resort to going, I'm going to, like, either trick you or play a game or make this fun or beg you. I mean, we've done
Begging.
it all.
I have
done
begged.
it all. Exactly.
Please just say I'm losing my mind.
I mean, I've done so many of the things as well that I know we shouldn't do.
That's so nice to hear.
Yeah,
because
100%.
you always, you know, not that you ever paint a picture of yourself like this, but you're like, she's an expert. Of course she doesn't do that. Her kids must just sit there and eat perfectly. Yeah. So it's really nice to hear
I
that
absolutely have
everybody's
done
the
these
same.
things. And in my family, like, my husband's terrible. I'm like, Dan, can you just back off? This is my domain. But yeah, it's really hard because when you've cooked a meal and you're really knackered and you've come home at the end of the day and the kids are all angry and you're like, if you just ate this meal, you would be okay now.
And also, if you
And
put
they
your
don't.
energy and your time into making something. So I know that with Alfie, I gave up doing lovely home cooked foods. I do a lot of a freezer stash of stuff because I'm like, if I haven't spent ages making it, I'm going to be less upset when you throw it on the floor and don't eat it.
And the other thing to say to that is small portions. As adults, we often go in with this expectation of what their portion should look like.
That's true.
And it's often not right. You know, it often isn't. I don't know how much you would want to eat at a certain meal.
Yeah.
I don't know what you ate yesterday. I don't know what you've eaten today. And it's often the same with our kids, especially if they've been at nursery or school. So actually going in with small expectations and saying, here's a really small amount. If you don't want it, if you want more, there's plenty. And that is less overwhelming, especially for a fussy child. And second of all, it means that you are not wasting massive amounts. And you can go, there's a really small amount. The whole rest of it is in there. If you guys don't touch it, it's going in the fridge and you're having it tomorrow.
Plus you can praise them when they finish their plate, you know, not in the way that, you finished everything, but it's more like, how amazing.
Yeah, did
Do
you enjoy
want more?
that?
Yeah, rather than, you've left so much.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think the best tip with there is giving a familiar food with an unfamiliar food. That sounds like a very good tip.
Definitely, that's a really good one.
Okay, so question number 2. My little one has started to not want to sit at the table. It's become a really negative association with mealtimes and I'm stuck. So we touched on that a little bit already.
Yeah.
And I actually have the same with my 5-year-old. He just, as soon as he says a word, he needs to sort of get up and tell me standing. And I'm honestly like, can we get through a whole meal with your bottom on your chair? And it's the biggest bugbear.
Ada is
He almost
exactly the same.
takes a bite of food, then needs to do 5 squats and then a star jump and then sit back down for the next one, then do a roly-poly.
He's been modelling off of you.
I know, guys, we don't do burpees at mealtimes. But he can't sit still. And it's not like he's trying to be naughty even.
Ada is exactly the same.
He just like can't sit there. So, I mean, this lady or man has not said how old, but I guess it's
oh my
the same
God,
kind
I
of
love
advice.
this because, so first of all, to say that Ada was terrible at sitting down in the high chair throughout the whole of weaning. And she would be like, exactly like you said, just lose interest so quickly. 8 small portions as well. So she's full up really quickly. And then she's like off and out. She wants to get down. She cannot. And this is such a controversial one. Because whenever I post about it on Instagram and I say, you don't make them sit up at the table, I get so many comments. What? Oh, that sounds disgraceful. You know, kids should be, especially from slightly older generations, like, you know, your kids should be sitting at a mealtime. It's non-manners, etc., etc. But again, children have such short attention spans, and especially different children. Like different children have different attention spans. So my son, you'll literally put food. I've never had a problem with him sitting at the table. You put food in front of him, he's like, oh, yum, food. And his focus is just like, I want to eat this. And he'll sit there and he will devour meals. It's one of those ones where, like, I sometimes still watch him now. He'll be smashing back some spaghetti and, you know, it's all like pouring out of his mouth.
Oh,
and,
I love
it. When he was younger as well, especially, he used to close his eyes when he eats. So he'd be like, and you're like, oh my God, you're loving that meal. Ada, no. She's
so if
not
Ada
bothered.
gets down, does Rafi not think, I want to get down?
No.
So that's the issue I have is that
Yeah.
it like, especially the eldest getting down makes the little two think,
They should.
oh, great, we're going to play now.
See, that is hard the other way round again
Yeah.
because you've got the littler ones who are going to copy the older one.
Yeah.
But the key there, and what I would say to this mum as well is, if they want to get down, let them get down. Food stays at the table, always. So food stays at the table.
Right.
If you want to get down, get down. Don't draw any more attention to them getting down than that.
Make the table look like a fun place to be.
Make the table the entertainment.
Okay.
So let's do a quick quiz. You know, it doesn't have to be like all, you know, flashy and exciting. But like the other day, we were actually eating out at a restaurant and my 2 were starting to get angsty. And you know when you're like, oh God, this is going to go really badly in a minute. And I just said, right, let's play a game, guys. And I was like, let's do a quiz. I'm going to ask you questions about Daddy, A, B and C. And you can say whether Daddy would like A, B or C best. Blooming loved it. They sat there like this, just non-stop. So make the table the place they want to be. And that's really hard. And when you're putting your child in the high chair and they don't want to be there, the first thing you need to do is forget the idea of getting them to eat. You need to step back and go, let's have a look at this mealtime. What's causing them to not want to be there? And let's try and change that. So it might be that you put them in the high chair at a different time of day and you say, let's do some drawing on this high chair. Make the high chair fun. Maybe even just changing the position of the high chair from one area to the other. Exactly.
Works.
So they're going, oh, wow, look at this view. Or like let them get involved in choosing cups and say, go and put your cup on your high chair now. So they waddle over and they put the cup on the high chair and then you give them the knife and fork and they do the same thing. Or maybe you draw them a picture of themselves and it's their little name place setting. Make it entertaining. Make them want to be there to begin with. And then during the meal, it's the bringing the pressure down.
Right.
It's making that mealtime fun. If they want to get down, fine, get down. I'm staying here because I want to eat my food. And again, modelling all that. I mean, there's so much more I could say. I have got a really good blog on high chair getting up and down because it was something we dealt with so much.
It's
with
frustrating.
Ada.
And I tell you what, with Darcy, so when she was about 13, 14 months, she kept like stiffening her legs and we tried to put her in the high chair. So what we did is we've got one of the Trip Trap stocker chairs. So we took off the table and we actually took off the thing in the front of her and then just tucked her right in next to the boys. And she sits there happily now because she's like, I'm one of the big kids and she's fine. She just didn't want to be in the seat bit. So I guess it's about experimenting.
And that's what I actually love that about those Trip Trap. I love any high chair like the Trip Trap one that you can literally take the top off, you can pull them into the table. I always say do that as soon as you can because babies want to be a part of that mealtime. And also having them separate is almost like they're bound to be excited and they're bound to want to be getting down from the table and getting closer to you. And also sometimes, they feel less restricted if they haven't got like the tray in front of them. They've got the table, sitting with everyone else. Bringing babies to the table as soon as possible during the weaning journey is a really, really key thing to do.
Yeah, because she feels like part of the gang
Exactly.
now.
And like I say, it's that novelty of, like change them around the table. Maybe start by doing like a Mad Hatter's tea party, so everyone changes seats after every course, or something like that. Just bring some like enjoyment to the table. What can I do to make my kids want to be here? And that's on my fussy eating course. That's one of the things I say to parents is step back and say, what can I do to make my child want to be here in the first place? Because that is more important than trying to get them to eat.
Okay, amazing. And we will also link to that fussy eating course.
Thank
High
you,
check
Nana.
course, fussy eating course, all going to be linked. Okay, I think we've got time for one last question.
Okay, sorry, I don't answer them very quickly or succinctly,
Actually, I think we've covered it. My youngest wasn't fussy, but is now copying his older brother who is fussy. How can I prevent this? He's 15 months. We definitely have had that.
Yeah. And it's really common and it's really hard. So first of all, let's reverse back a little bit. Definitely for those families who aren't there yet, if you can try and tackle the fussy eating before your second child comes along, of course that is ideal. Not always easy. And like we said, it's personality. Sometimes it takes months and years to make changes. But the second thing is just don't draw attention to the fussy behaviour. The more you draw attention to that behaviour at the meal, the more your little one will pick up and go, they get loads of attention for that. Going to copy that then.
Yeah.
Because they're all vying for your attention all the time. I mean, you must know this with 3, because my 2,
It's impossible.
Gosh, yeah. You can't have a conversation with one of them without the other one being like, Mum, I need you.
Yeah.
So literally that, give the attention to baby for doing the eating. I'm not saying ignore your fussy toddler. Yeah. I'm not saying just completely ignore them, of course. But I'm saying just don't overly draw attention to that behaviour. Lots of, that's fine, you don't have to eat it. Oh, are you enjoying that? That kind of conversation to both of them. And also, like I said, model yourself. You are a role model for your baby, your younger child. Eat with them. And especially if you have a little one who is being fussy at the table, have that time when you are on your own with them, when you can eat together. Let them see you eat and let them see you enjoy food. Talk positively, not negatively about food and about mealtime, so that you can really, show that side of it, because you're a role model to them just as much as your toddler is.
Yeah.
And like I say, just not drawing attention to toddler. Talk to them about what you want them to do to show your little one how to eat well, and focus the attention on the behaviour around the table you do want to see more. That's what I would say.
That is such good advice. Easier said than done sometimes.
Absolutely.
So I always want all the listeners to know that if they're in the trenches right now, that it's so normal. We've all been there, but it doesn't last.
And none of this that
fault.
I'm saying is quick fix. It's not your fault. None of it is quick fix. None of it. And actually, the advice that I give often goes against our human nature.
Yeah.
So be very kind to yourself, because if you're thinking, oh, I've done all this wrong, it's because what you've done is literally tried to nurture your child and do what you think is best for your child. So if you're thinking like, oh, I've completely messed up, you haven't. You have just raised your child in a way that seems natural and right.
And sometimes the way they react makes it seem like we're trying to torture them.
Absolutely,
I'm trying to feed you mashed potato with butter in it. I don't know why you are screaming at me like I'm feeding you poison. So it's really, really good advice and very practical tips. So really helpful. I am going to ask you to pop something on a Post-it note that you would give a new mum, a mum who's had loads of kids. What advice would you give them if you were to pop this on their fridge?
Okay. I would. Do you want me to write it?
Yeah, you can say it and write it. We're going to stick it up.
Okay, so I would say, and I've always loved this, especially because I had a really tricky time with my daughter Ada when she was born, found it really hard. I always loved hearing this, which is, it's all a phase.
That can apply to so much in parenting, and especially weaning.
Exactly. With weaning, with sleep, with just parenting, like every single stage is different.
Yeah.
And so much I remember Googling at night, thinking that my child was dying. And literally Googling, being like, what's wrong with them? They've got a cough, or whatever it is. And then, I'll remember saying to a friend of mine, then the next week, you're Googling something else.
Yeah.
So that has been a phase. You don't need to
even the
you
good
don't
bits
think
are a
about it
phase,
anymore.
and that's
Even
worth
the good
remembering
bits,
too.
yeah,
You know, when
it's
your
so
kids are not
true.
fighting, you're like, this will end at some point.
Exactly
Enjoy
that.
it.
All of it. It's all a phase. So I know obviously we know you say like enjoy every moment, which
Yeah.
is not realistic,
No.
and I don't think that's helpful. But so much of it is a phase. So the thing that you're finding really hard right now, you probably in a month's time will not be finding that really hard right now. And sometimes you might with food, but it still is a phase. So
I
that's what I would
love
say.
that. Thank you. And that will apply to so many mums listening. Thank you so much for
No
coming to chat to us
worries.
and being so open and honest that you also find things tough, because I know that's so nice to hear.
Yes.
But we really appreciate your conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I loved it as well.
Thank you.